Tarte has told us who they are. When are we going to start believing them? It's giving delusion and confusion. Hey y'all, it's SheRea. What's up? Back with another video. Y'all. Okay, it is time to have an honest conversation about Tarte Cosmetics. But before we get into it, if you are new here and you've never seen my face, but you like my face, definitely be sure to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up. A like goes such a long way to support my channel, and it keeps content like this going. Like my previous video where I talked about capitalism using the Mayel acquisition by Procter & Gamble as the case study, in this video I'm going to do the same thing. Even though we'll be talking about Tarte, some of the players that were involved in this latest Tarte drama, we can really take this event, this drama-filled, messy situation that's happening, and really talk about larger issues. We can talk about capitalism, we can talk about tokenism, exceptionalism, we can talk about respectability politics. There's so many underlying issues that are really at the heart of this current debacle, so we're going to talk about it all, and I hope that y'all are ready for it. So y'all, this is going to be a very laid back, open conversation. You can feel free to chime in down below, offer your take, your feedback, your questions, your concerns. Everything can go down below in the comment section. Just keep it respectful because I know y'all like to tussle. To catch you up, now I won't do a huge recap. There's so much amazing content already on this platform as well as TikTok. I will leave some of the videos and TikToks that I watch to kind of catch me up on all that has been going on. All of that will be linked down below if you have no idea what's going on, because it's messy, it's multi-layered, it's nuanced, and it's stressful as hell. So there's that. Before we talk about what had happened recently, we do have to talk about Tarte and its relationship with Black influencers in particular. I distinctly, even though I was really enthralled with natural hair YouTube, even I knew about this. In 2018, Tarte, after the success, just the sheer virility of its Shape Tape concealer, people still use Shape Tape to this day. People still talk about Shape Tape to this day. Because of the success of the concealer, the foundation was highly anticipated by women across skin tones, races, and ethnicities. And honestly, Tarte let the girlies down because the shade range was abysmal. It was giving sand, it was giving beige, and it was giving all shades of copy paper. And then there were like 2 or 3 shades of brown tacked on to the end.
Tarte
doesn't care about Black people.
It's at a point now where I kind of feel like y'all are just trolling now. Like, you guys are doing this on purpose. Like, there's no way you can't know that people would be upset about this. I'm so confused.
And Jackie Aina and Alyssa Ashley and many Black creators at that time dragged Tarte, implored Tarte to do better, spoke about their relationship or lack thereof with Tarte, because back in the day in the Tarte brand trips, you didn't really see a lot of people of color on those trips either. So Tarte has a history of excluding Black and brown creators, and specifically Black creators. I remember that Tarte's explanation for the abysmal foundation range was that they would release more shades in the summer as people tend to get darker in the summer, which sounds real stupid today in 2023 as it did back in 2018. As we know, my shade NC50-ish is NT50-ish all year round. You know, brown is brown all year round. Obviously, capitalism is always going to capitalize, and Tarte is still around, but they definitely took a hit, and I honestly haven't heard anyone talk about Tarte in a number of years. I do want to say that I'm not a supporter of Tarte. I don't use Tarte. I've never tried any of their products. When I was coming up on YouTube, that was really at the heart of the F-Tart movement on YouTube. And once the girlies, the black influencers, weren't talking about them, I wasn't checking for them, and I've never checked for Tarte since. And that's just how it's been. But with the popularity of TikTok and this new generation of creators that don't have this painful, embarrassing history with Tarte, are promoting Tarte. Tarte products are going viral because one thing about social media and TikTok and Instagram in particular, it lacks the historical context. Without this historical context and the information of how questionable Tarte has been over the years, Tarte has been allowed to reinvent itself to attract a new crop of influencers and really turn their brand around, in my opinion. Now that we know the history of Tarte, we can talk about what's been happening lately so quickly, because we've been talking about this history enough, but history is so important to unpack these other issues. So Tarte was really the movers and shakers of the brand trips. If they were not the first brand, they were one of the first brands to really popularize influencer trips. Like back in the day, Tarte influencer trips are what influencers crave to be on, what audience members wish they could also participate in. Like Tarte brand trips are legendary, honestly, within the beauty space. And over the years, they've slowed down just because of trends changing. I'm sure their marketing investments also changing. And of course, the pandemic over the last few months have re-energized their brand trips for whatever reason, starting with Dubai a few months ago. Now let's finally get to the latest drama, which is Tarte's brand trip to Miami for Formula One. I'm gonna be transparent with y'all. I had no idea what Formula One was. I just assumed it was horse racing. I don't know if it's the island girl in me, but I was like, yeah, obviously it's horse racing. Y'all, it's not. It's race cars. So Tarte took the girlies to Formula One in Miami, and one black creator spoke out, Bria Jones. She spoke out before the trip. So basically, they went on last Friday. She made a TikTok that has now been deleted.
And I just don't like that this is happening to people who want to be a part of these Tarte trips. And personally, I don't get why, if they're going to do these trips, they don't just treat everyone the same. I have worked too hard to get to where I am today, and I will be damned as a black creator if I accept anything other than equal treatment on these trips.
That was basically the gist of it. And of course, Black TikTok rallied behind her, and the girlies were there for her. But what happened though is that with Bria stepping down and deciding that she doesn't want to go to the trip, Tarte doesn't let it die there. They don't, as far as I know, work it out with Bria. Instead, they invite 3 dark-skinned black girls to replace Bria, to basically fill Bria's place, essentially. And if that wasn't bad enough, people on TikTok think that these girls, primarily 2 of them, were being mean and nasty towards Bria, basically being like, we took your spot, you're a liar, and we're basically talking shit while they were on the trip, kind of throwing shots at Bria and her experience. And TikTok has been talking about this ever since.
Hi from Tarte. It's Rex and Blazerson.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Fanita.
Yes. Anel here.
I just want to say sorry that I'm living my best life.
I'll just be honest, y'all. I think in this situation, there's no winner besides Tarte. Tarte is the only winner in all of this. The black women involved are the losers, as we always all are the losers when things like this happen. Tarte is going to capitalize on the brand awareness. Nobody was talking about Tarte. Now everybody's talking about Tarte. I'm not even on TikTok, and I spent the last 14 hours, 12 hours researching this, scrolling, learning more about Tarte, what has happened with these brand trips. I didn't even care about Tarte. I didn't even care about TikTok, but I was on TikTok and YouTube literally for the last half a day learning more about this situation. So Tarte is the winner, right? Everybody is talking about it, and we don't want to lose sight that Tarte created this problem, and that Tarte is a problem, and that Tarte has always been a problem when it comes to Black people, and especially Black women. We cannot lose sight of that ever, period. I don't really want to talk about these influencers or talk down to these influencers because that has happened to me, and it's not a good situation to be in when people react to your life and have opinions on your life. So I'm not talking about these women to talk about these women. I want to talk about the situation, and names just helps us to talk about it. Does that make sense? I don't want to call them out. I really want to call them in, but I have to say the names for any of this to make sense on YouTube, right? So when it comes to Bria Jones, but let's be clear, like I said at the beginning, this is just a case study, right? Bria Jones could have easily been SheRea DelSol. First of all, this is not Bria's first romp or experience with Tarte. Bria went on a trip, a Taylor Swift concert with Tarte. She did an entire TikTok about it. She was ecstatic about it, as she would be, right?
I think I've officially peaked as an influencer because we are going to Taylor Swift with the Tarte team.
Brand trips or brand events are a great opportunity for influencers. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel appreciated. It makes you feel like you've reached this level of your influencer journey where you're being recognized, where you're being selected to participate in these activities, right? So it feels good as an influencer to be invited, right? So I'm not shitting on her wanting to be invited or even going on these trips or being involved with Tarte in the first place, right? It's complicated, but I understand the affirmation that you get when brands notice you, right? Because a lot of the things that we do online, especially as Black creators, goes unnoticed, goes unrecognized, and goes unappreciated. So when brands reach out to you, you feel the sense of appreciation that you may not always feel from the brands that you support and you often promote for free. Bria had to know about the history with Tarte. I just, unless you are living under a rock or you are not a part or involved in beauty creation at all, or you weren't in the beauty community at all, everyone knows about Tarte. If you were over the age of 24, I feel like everyone knows about Tarte. And if you don't know about Tarte, YouTube is free and Google is free. And I say that because as a creator, we have the responsibility to vet the brands that we align ourselves with, right? And we have YouTube and we have Google. Now, TikTok and Instagram are unique in that they're not as searchable. YouTube has been around for what, 15 years or so, something like that, 20 years. YouTube has been around for I think 2 decades at this point. So YouTube has a backlog that Instagram and TikTok doesn't, and also YouTube is owned by Google, so it's searchable. So if Tarte or any brand reaches out to you, it is a responsibility for you as an influencer to research this brand, to see what this brand is about. And if you don't do it, it's because you don't care. Or you want the money, you want the trip, so you're not going to do your due diligence. And of course, there's some naivety involved, there's some ignorance involved, but I don't know, it's not a good excuse anymore for influencers. The response is really, I didn't care, and that's fine. No one is telling you that you have to care, but you have to know, because Google and YouTube is free, and there's an entire history On Tarte, Jackie Aina's video about Tarte and their abysmal foundation range is still there on YouTube from 2018. We're talking 5 years ago. That video is right there on YouTube if you search Tarte. If you Google Tarte controversy or what's going on with Tarte, that's going to come up. I personally have brands that reach out to me, especially the ones that I've never heard of. Before I respond to them, I go to my Googles. I use my resources, and I Google. You don't know the amount of times I've Googled this unknown brand to me and scamming is coming up, how they've exploited their employees, they've exploited their customers. I either ignore the brand entirely or I respond and say that I have no interest in working with them. But I have to do my due diligence because all money ain't good money. All opportunities ain't good opportunities. So when it comes to Bria or influencers like her, you knew Tarte was problematic and anti-Black before you signed up to work with them, to collaborate with them. When you went to the Taylor Swift concert, babe, you knew the history of Tarte. And if you didn't know, it's because you didn't care. And that, again, that's fine. I am not casting morality judgments on people. We all have different morals and ethics that guide us, but you didn't know isn't an excuse anymore. It's that you didn't care. And it's okay if you don't care, but it is what it is. So it's hard for me, I'm gonna be quite honest, it's hard for me to sympathize with Bria and influencers like her because no one cares about the mistreatment of people of color and Black people until they're the ones being mistreated. No one cares about the mistreatment of people of color and Black people until they're the ones being mistreated. Bria didn't care about that history. Bria wanted her brand trip. Bria went into this knowing that Tarte has had a very interesting history and she decided to align herself with them. And it wasn't until Tarte did what they do, it wasn't until capitalists capitalize in the ways that they do that she wanted Black women to rally around her. The same Black women that have been ignored and dismissed by Tarte for decades. Tarte, as I found out, has actually increased or widened their shade range, but I can't speak to undertones. I can't speak to how they look on the skin because I don't see Black and brown people talking about no Tarte. So I see the expansion, but I don't actually know if the formulas or the colors actually look good on deeper, darker skin, because we know of companies that will have 50 shades. I'm talking to you, Morphe. We know of companies that will have deeper, darker shades and it will still be, there will still be 50 shades deep and the shade range will still be ass because the undertones are off. So even though Tarte has expanded, we know within the community that Tarte isn't for us. That's not me saying that Bria deserves mistreatment or that she deserves to be treated inequitably. But what I am saying is that there's a history there and history often repeats itself. I do want to say that Bria has issued an apology, basically saying that she made a mistake and that there was some miscommunication and that her and Tarte are good.
I wanted to update you that I've been in contact with Maureen and the Tarte team, and we are very much so on the same page with everything. There was miscommunication on both ends, and I recognize my mistake in responding so quickly and publicly, but Tarte has done a great job of working through the situation with me. So I know we're both glad to be moving forward in a positive way.
It's very much giving sis was about to get sued. It's very much giving the lawyers drafted this. It's very much giving you didn't read your contract and you should have not said anything in the first place. So now the Tarte team and their squadron of lawyers have had to gather you together. Tarte is a white brand, period. And even though Tarte wants to, on the outside, appear as though they are for diversity and inclusion. We just know that not to be true. They gotta work harder. They gotta do more. And when we talk about Bria or influencers like her, this is a reminder to all of us that tokenism will not save us. And tokenism will not save Black people or Black women. It's not enough to invite 1 or 2 brown people when we don't even have the correct color or shade or undertone in the Tarte range. There were some influencers that went to Miami that don't even have a shade in Tarte, I'm pretty sure. As an influencer, it's so easy to become the token. Again, because of the lack of opportunities, this scarcity mindset, we just jump on everything because there's not a lot for us. Let's be clear. There's not a lot for creators of color, especially when you have other differences, right? Based on size, based on socioeconomic background, based on color, based on age. So all of these different factors, all these different matters of difference affects how we're treated within this influencer space, right? Because our phenotypes are our capital. What you look like often determines how far you go and how much you earn in this capitalistic influencer space. When it comes to tokenism, a lot of us want to be the token.
I'm not saying Tarte isn't racist, and I'm not saying they're racist. I'm just saying I know when to use racism to my advantage. When I negotiated my biggest contract ever, I went into the meeting. They had 12 of us there that are going to be on that contract. And I looked around and I was the only Black girl in the room.
We know the opportunities are few and far between, but what we have found and what we see in the case of Tarte and many other brands like Tarte is that tokenism runs out and that tokenism has its limits. You may be one of the only few Black girls at a Taylor Swift concert, and then you become one of few Black girls that's crying on TikTok about being used and treated as some check off a diversity and inclusion campaign. So we have to be mindful of that. As influencers and as people, we also have to be leery of being exceptionalists, thinking that I'm here in this position because I'm superior, I've worked harder, I've done more than all these other bitches, and I deserve to be here.
Apparently no one can do what I do. I've been busier now than I was before I retired. Brands need me. So I'm back. I will come for every contract. If I want it, I'll get it. Every campaign, if it's in your hand and I want it, I'll get it.
Often, exceptionalism is tied with tokenism. I am the only Black girl here because I'm the only Black girl that works hard. I'm the only Black girl that's brand safe. I'm the only Black girl with X, Y, and Z, when often you're just a tick on a diversity and inclusion, campaign or goal, right? Tokenism is not enough. We often focus on the individual, right? Our individual aspirations, our individual goals to be a 6-figure influencer, to travel the world with brands, right? The individual success of one influencer is not enough to change the disparity amongst influencers writ large, right? The success of one influencer is not enough to bridge the wage gap between Black and brown and white influencers, right? There's a lot of influencers where they're for themselves and they're not for us, they're not for the collective, and we see that in this particular situation. I also want to talk about respectability politics. There's a lot of conversation currently about brand safeness and about what you can say. Do you speak out against a brand? How will speaking out affect you with other brands? How will you survive as an influencer when you speak up? Maybe it's just better to shut up and get your money. And what we've learned with respectability politics is that it doesn't work. And it's not enough. We see that Tarte, even though would more than likely be attracted to a Bria, replaced Bria with a Fanita. Fanita and Bria are really on two different sides of the spectrum when it comes to respectability, right? Bria looks like you're one of the mill, easygoing, brand safe person, and then you have Fanita, who is a little ghetto, a little hood, wears her bonnet and no bra. She's really a woman that defies gender and societal expectations of black fat women, but she replaced Bria because Tarte wanted to prove a point. And Tarte wanted to be as black as hell as they could be, and they decided to go with a Fanita, especially because Fanita just had a encounter with Pyrex, basically calling out Pyrex for mistreating black creators. So you have someone that's literally crying about the prejudices that black creators face, then you're being invited by the biggest by the biggest offender of black creators, Tarte, to cover up whatever shadiness happened with another influencer. And that's really telling, right? Something else that's come up in this conversation, especially from audience members or commenters on TikTok especially, is that why are black creators focusing on white brands and going on these white brand trips, and why aren't they rushing or participating in brand trips by black brands? And namely, I heard Danessa Myricks come up, Fenty, and Juvia's Place. And I found that to be really interesting because black brands, for whatever reason, don't really have brand trips. I don't know if it's a matter of budget, a matter of where they decide to allocate their budget because of audience feedback and customer concerns about brand trips, but black brands do not have brand trips. And for a lot of black creators, I'm not speaking specifically about Fenty, Danessa Myricks, or Juvia's Place, but a lot of brands also, based on my experience, right? This is just my experience, especially I can step away right now to the hair space where black brands weren't giving PR. The PR that I receive is from white and Asian brands. This is just my experience. This is a hot take. Black people or black creators are expected to put on for black brands because we are black. We're expected to buy the products with our own money, review the products, turn on our lights, turn on our cameras, edit the video, post the video, promote the video, so we can keep black dollars in the black community all on our own backs. And that's without support of the brands. Some of these brands do not even say thank you. They don't send PR. And that can all obviously also be said for white brands. I'm not singling out black brands, but what I am saying is that I can only speak personally for myself, and it's a hard truth. I am not celebrated or given recognition, unfortunately, by black brands as I am from white ones. I'm not ignorant or delusional. I know that a CeraVe has more of a marketing budget to send out PR than insert small black-owned brand, but even the larger black-owned brands, the black-owned brands that are in main retailers like Camille Rose, like TGIN, like Design Essentials, do not often send out PR. So when it comes to black creators having to fold or work with questionable or problematic white brands, the question comes up, why don't we align with the black brands? But is the support always there? I'm not sure that it is, and I can only speak for myself as a black creator, and this isn't something that I'm happy about or proud to say. I wish that I had a better experience with black brands as a black woman. I just haven't had that experience, namely in the hair space, which is definitely different than the makeup beauty space, but I can only speak about my experience. It's not what people want to hear, but it's just the truth. Oftentimes, I'm alone in my house recording, talking to myself like I am right now in this video, and I don't get to talk to or interact with other influencers within the beauty space, and that only happens when I go to a brand event or if I go on a brand trip, and it's just a nice opportunity. It's like a workshop, you know what I mean? Like in traditional work, brand trips are equivalent to workshops or leadership summits or whatever. They may be way more lavish and way more luxurious, but if we think about it within that context, then it's pretty much the same. Of course it's going to be exuberant, of course it's going to be over the top, because that's just how marketing and influencing works, but it's pretty much the same thing. I said all of that to say that there are not a lot of opportunities for Black women in any space, whether the brand look like them or not. And that's why Black women are pressed to be a part of whatever they can, because the opportunities are so few and far in between. I have a lot more to say, but we're going to end on this last note because I really gotta go. I am tired. I don't know if this is strategic or a coincidence, but I am so tired of outrage being the #1 marketing strategy. It's tired, it's dead, let it go. Tarte has continued to be in people's mouths and in people's head because they stay in drama.
It's at a point now where I kind of feel like y'all are just trolling now. Like, you guys are doing this on purpose.
Tarte has this huge brand awareness just from the drama of the last few months, and I'm sure their sales are skyrocketing, and they're just in people's face because of this outrage, whether fake or not, that people are expressing online, namely on TikTok. I just don't need y'all to go out and buy the foundation to prove a point. I can easily see y'all starting a trend where you're gonna go out and see if you can find your color in Tarte and sell out Tarte foundation. I can see that happening for us, and I hate that for the beauty community. Like, that's actually embarrassing. I'm not telling people whether or not to support Tarte. I don't support Tarte. I will never support Tarte. I will be honest and frank about that. I personally would not align myself with Tarte just because Tarte has not shown itself to change over the last decade. Tarte recently came out and said they're going to work really hard on their creative partnerships and making things more equitable. Babe, it's been 5 years. Over the last 5 years, over the George Floyd of it all, the 2020 of it all, the COVID pandemic survival of it all, you've learned nothing. You came out of a pandemic. You came out of a reckoning with race in this country, and you had the Dubai trip. Your Dubai trip was a response to 2 to 3 years of racial injustice, of a pandemic. That was your response. Your response was Dubai. Tarte has told us who they are. When are we going to start believing them? How much grace will we have for Tarte and brands like them? It's getting crazy. I can literally see y'all selling out Tarte right now, and that's embarrassing. Tarte needs to come to terms with who they are, as do we, and we need to move accordingly, because why are we trying to make fetch happen with a brand that has proven time and time again that they don't bang with us really, but yet and still here we are supporting them like we never have before. It's giving delusion and confusion, and I don't understand. But we talked about a lot today. I feel like I probably haven't hit every point that I wanted to hit. I maybe have misspoken in some parts, but hopefully you'll understand where I'm coming from. Definitely let me know if you knew about this, and if you did know about this, what are your thoughts? If you didn't know about it and now you know, what do you think about it? Do you support Tarte? If you do support Tarte, why? Did you know about the historical context? How do we move forward? There's a lot to talk about. I may even do a part 2. Let me know. And I think that's it for now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. And I'll see y'all later. Peace. Bye, y'all.